I just don't buy this submarine stuff. Everything's about this submarine going missing just doesn't make sense. The submarine going missing just seems like a perfect way to fake a death or get out of something happening. The submarine specs are laughable at most. The video game controller to control the sub. The 2-foot window to actually spectate stuff. The sub being basically locked from the outside. The lack of backup for communication or emergency. It just doesn't make sense how underprepared they were for anything. If you look more into the CEO of the company, it will make sense. He used to work in the airline industry but left because he felt it was over-regulated. So he found an industry that was completely unregulated. Cut every corner imaginable. And the inevitable happened. It just doesn't make sense how underprepared they were for anything. I think you underestimate the power of inflated egos, my friend. Especially if you're a Silicon Valley VC-fueled tech bro who fundamentally believes in move fast, break things approach to development. Well, that works fine with some bullshit app no one really relies on. Not a great strategy when referring to a complex piece of machinery that is expected to go into ridiculously harsh and inhospitable environments. The real submarine theory is that they've probably already located the sub quite accurately. They're just trying to formulate a plan which is really quite difficult to achieve. Better to have the public think you're still looking them to admit you've found it and can't rescue them. Then the public will start calling out the competency of the rescues and start blaming them when they're just trying to help. Fake you're still looking so the public is still on your side instead of adding more pressure. If I was to fake my death, I'd make sure the entire world was watching and talking about it and have every maritime expert examine the fake event in excruciating detail. You just listed a whole list of reasons why the submarine going missing does make sense. I watched a video last night that summed it up pretty well. It was an experimental sub built by a team with no experience that was only tested once to 3,000 meters. The Titanic is about 4,000 meters down. The hull was made of carbon fiber and they were using a fucking wireless controller to drive the thing. It will be a classic case study in the field of fuck around and find out someday. What if aliens rescue them? Voila, Project Blue Beam after. Can we call it OceanGate Gate? It's a distraction. I think you underestimate the intelligence-confidence ratio of super-rich people. Take a scroll through Richard Branson's escapades for some examples. It's getting more coverage than Hunter skirting prison time. Arguing from personal incredulity is what that is called. Arguing something is not true because you can't believe it. Excerpt from rapper Meek Mill yesterday for your consideration. I can't see a wealthy man doing this with no extreme backup plans. With your son. Not saying it's fake, but the way y'all run the same clips in media, not even working on the average minds anymore. All types of stuff going on in the world, y'all headlining with no real info, lol. The conspiracy is that a dumbass rich guy cut corners to make a bigger profit at the expense of lives. Tale as old as time. And it happens the same week John Durham is testifying to Congress about the biggest crime of the century, Russiagate. And the company is OceanGate. I feel like CIA psychologists are at work here in some weird way. Wouldn't this be the perfect plan if a billionaire wanted to disappear and fake his death? I think you should focus on the deeper conspiracy here. The owner passed on the opportunity to hire experienced engineers because he thought they were too old and too white. He seemingly went out of his way to hire people based on physical characteristics and ideology over their qualifications, experience, and capabilities. The real question here is whether he was a true day believer, or if he used it as a smokescreen to get away with cutting corners. I mean, Hunter Biden's story dropped the same day. You tell me which one is the distraction. It makes perfect sense. History of human greed and corporate corner cutting is most logical. Sounds like a few billionaires wanted to leave the planet but not tell anyone about it. Perfect cover, as their bodies will never be recovered. Anyone who thinks this stuff is a conspiracy seems like such rube. You'd have to convince yourself that there are no dumb billionaires and that there are no dumb tech CEOs who don't understand why safety regulations exist. You'd have to be unaware of the last 30 years of the world. I made this exact same post yesterday but no one commented on it, lol. But I 1000 agree. Especially because that shitty sub was actually successful at going down before. How could a guy engineer something like that but have zero redundancies? Makes zero sense. Redundancy is the #1 safety doctrine when it comes to engineering. You are severely underestimating how dumb the rich are. Ditto. And the whole didn't wanna hire old white guys quote is telling. Even if he was embarrassed to hire old whites, he would have done so anyways and taken a pics of new grad youngsters and said this is the crew. A million lies. This is a rather obvious PSYOP. What the purpose is we don't know. But to think this is actually happening is downright laughable. It's a nice one though, cause it's essentially not possible to ever prove it as a fake, as those depths are not accessible to anyone. I bet a giant super squid ate them. It finally makes sense. OMG, thank you. I can sleep now. A 4chan theory is that it was a fantastic excuse to search the ocean for something. Nah. Rich people killing themselves doing stupid shit to show off their excess wealth is nothing new. 100 years ago it was expeditions to the Arctic and the Amazon. Same shit, different death trap. Maybe they never were in the sub. Now they are at Epstein Island face with peeking eye. This is all to keep our eyes off Hunter. It seems that the design of this sub was not well prepared. And they used it immediately even though they knew it was not well developed. LMAO, just be distracted, peasant. It's all a distraction from James O'Keefe catching an employee of BlackRock openly talking about buying politicians and how domination is fun. Go and watch it on YouTube. Fuck these rich pricks in a tin can. Who the fuck cares? Looks like his son sacked him considering his posts on Twitter. That's capitalism, baby. Which passenger has a reason to fake their death? Just humans doing human stuff. Of all the things you mention, the lack of backup is the only one actually suspicious. The control is actually quite reliable and easy to program. Sealing from outside makes a lot of sense instead of making a hatch systems that works under that pressure, etc. Distraction balloon, UFOs. Now ISO identified submersible object. Video game controllers are great. They have proven reliability with 30 years of ergonomics RD. I just see it as more distractions. My hubby came home from work and said that's what everyone was talking about. So easy to get a story to occupy people's minds.